My name is Gloria, and I'm 30 years old. I'm an accountant, and I've always been someone who values order and predictability in life. I like things to be planned out, and I find comfort in routines. But everything changed when life introduced me to someone unexpected, Aiden. It all started at a mutual friend's birthday party. As soon as I walked in, I spotted him across the room. He was laughing loudly, the center of attention, effortlessly drawing people to him. I, on the other hand, was content to remain in the background, keeping to myself. But my friend Kenna had other plans. "Gloria, you have to meet Aiden. He's hilarious," she insisted, practically dragging me over to him. I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be awkward, but when I approached him, I was surprised. Aiden was relaxed and easygoing. His laughter was contagious, and before I knew it, I was laughing more in that one evening than I had in months. "Hey, I'm Aiden. And you are?" he asked with a smile that lit up his face. "Gloria. Nice to meet you," I replied, a little more eagerly than I expected. Aiden cracked a joke about how accountants are secretly wild party animals in disguise, and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. The rest of the evening was spent in easy conversation. Aiden was into graphic design, loved indie music, and had a passion for cooking. I left the party feeling lighter and happier. Aiden had this amazing way of making everything feel fun and exciting. Over the next few weeks, we started seeing a lot of each other. He'd surprise me with takeout from the coolest new restaurant in town, or tickets to a concert I hadn't even known about. "Life's too short for routines, Gloria. You've got to mix it up," he'd say with a grin. I was drawn to his spontaneity, a complete contrast to my organized and structured life. Aiden had this natural ability to pull me out of my comfort zone, and I loved it. But as time passed, I began to notice things that made me uneasy. He would spend money carelessly, casually dropping $100 on a night out without a second thought. He'd hop from one job to another whenever he got bored. I decided to talk to him about it one evening, when we were at my place. "Aiden, don't you think you should be a little more careful with money? Maybe try sticking with a job a bit longer?" I asked, choosing my words carefully. He just laughed it off. "Gloria, you worry too much. Life's all about having fun. Money and jobs, they come and go." I wanted to argue, to explain that life doesn't always work that way, but I didn't. Instead, I told myself that it was just Aiden being Aiden, and I let it slide. When Aiden proposed, it came completely out of the blue. We were walking through the park one afternoon, and without any warning, he blurted out, "Marry me, Gloria. Let's make this adventure official." It was impulsive, irrational, and so Aiden. But despite the whirlwind nature of it all, I said yes. We moved in together, and I thought this would be the perfect start to our life as a couple. Maybe, just maybe, opposites really could attract and hold everything together. However, over time, the carefree, adventurous spirit that I had once loved about Aiden began to feel more like a growing divide between us. The reality of his laid-back attitude started to clash with my more cautious, responsible nature. The first big crack in our relationship came on a Thursday evening. I had stayed late at work, catching up on some complicated accounts. I was exhausted and starving as I arrived home, looking forward to a quiet night. But instead, I was met with chaos. The living room was covered in bags from various stores, and Aiden was lounging on the couch, wearing a self-satisfied grin. "Gloria, you're home. Check out these amazing deals I found today," he exclaimed, waving his arms toward the piles of shopping bags. I dropped my keys on the table, feeling a tight knot form in my stomach. "Aiden," I said, trying to stay calm. "We talked about this last week. We need to save money and cut down on unnecessary expenses." He just shrugged and flipped through a magazine as if nothing was wrong. Yeah, I know," he mumbled, not really listening. At that moment, I realized that the gap between our worlds was growing wider. I had always been the one to plan and stay responsible, while Aiden seemed to live in the moment, oblivious to the consequences. And as much as I loved the excitement he brought into my life, I began to wonder how long I could live in a world that felt so unstable. It was clear Aiden didn't see the problem. "But these were on sale, and we needed some of these things," he said, trying to defend his purchases. I picked up a receipt from one of the bags and felt my heart sink. Aiden, these are luxury items, not essentials. We have a budget for a reason. I could feel the stress rising inside me. He looked up at me, his expression shifting from casual to defensive. Come on, Gloria. Don't be such a killjoy. We deserve to treat ourselves once in a while. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. It's not about being a killjoy, Aiden. It's about being responsible. We have bills to pay, a mortgage, and we agreed we would save for emergencies. He rolled his eyes, tossing the magazine aside with a sigh. You always make a big deal out of everything. Can't you just relax for once? I felt a pang of frustration, but I didn't want to argue. This wasn't just about the shopping. It was about something much bigger. Then one morning, I found an envelope on the dining table addressed to Aiden. It was from his workplace. I was curious and opened it, and as I read the contents, my heart sank. Aiden had resigned from his job, without even telling me. When he came downstairs for breakfast, I confronted him. Aiden, what is this? Did you quit your job? Why didn't you discuss this with me first? He poured himself a cup of coffee, unfazed. Yeah, I quit. That job was a dead end. I need something better. Something that excites me. I could feel my frustration rising. But how are we going to manage our expenses? We need 2 incomes. Aiden, you know this? He shrugged, taking a sip of his coffee. We'll figure it out. We always do. You need to stop worrying so much. How can I not worry? I asked, my voice growing louder. We have financial commitments, Aiden. This isn't just about you or me. It's about us, our future. Aiden set his coffee cup down with a thud. I can't deal with this right now, Gloria. You're suffocating me with all this talk about money and responsibility. I watched him walk away, leaving me standing in the kitchen with the resignation letter in my hand. I felt more alone than I had in a long time. At first, I tried to be patient, hoping Aiden's unemployment was just a short-term setback. But as the days passed, it became a persistent source of tension between us. Every morning, as I prepared for work, I'd find Aiden lounging on the couch, either watching TV or scrolling through his phone. It was a painful reminder of our growing financial strain. Aiden, it's been weeks since you quit your job. Have you started looking for something new? I asked one morning, trying to hide my concern as I adjusted my work badge. He barely looked up from his phone. Yeah, I'm looking, but nothing has caught my eye yet. I'm waiting for the right opportunity. I felt my patience snap. The right opportunity? Aiden, we have bills piling up. We can't just wait forever. Finally, he glanced up at me, his expression a mix of annoyance and indifference. Gloria, you need to chill. I know what I'm doing. I'll find something soon. Days turned into weeks, and the situation didn't improve. I began taking on extra hours at work to cover our bills, but the exhaustion started to wear me down. One evening, I came home to find the living room covered in pizza boxes and empty beer cans. Aiden was sprawled out on the couch, snoring lightly, with the TV blaring in the background. I couldn't contain my frustration. Aiden, I called out sharply. He stirred and blinked sleepily at me. What's up? He mumbled, rubbing his eyes. What's up? Look at this mess. I gestured around the room. And dinner? Were you planning to cook tonight? My patience was running thin. Aiden sat up, yawning. Oh, I forgot. Got caught up with the game. Just grab something on your way home next time. The lack of responsibility, the growing strain on our finances, and Aiden's careless attitude were wearing me down. I wanted to fix things, but it seemed like we were drifting farther apart every day. I felt a wave of frustration and anger wash over me. I'm working extra hours just to make ends meet, Aiden. The least you could do is help around the house. I said, my voice tight with exhaustion. He stretched lazily and stood up, completely unbothered. I didn't ask you to work extra, he replied. You're choosing to stress yourself out. Choosing to stress out. I shot back, my frustration boiling over. Aiden, if I don't, how are we going to survive? You're sitting here doing nothing while I'm out there working to keep us afloat. My voice was rising, filled with frustration. His expression hardened, and I could see the tension building. I'm not doing nothing, he snapped. I'm trying to find a job. You think I like being stuck at home, sitting on the couch all day? You're not even trying, I retorted, hurt and angry. This isn't what I signed up for when we got married. Aiden scoffed, clearly annoyed. Well, sorry for not living up to your perfect standards, Gloria. I didn't realize I married a nag. His words hit me hard. A nag? Was it so much to ask for a partner who actually contributed? A nag? I repeated, shocked by his response. Is it too much to ask for you to help out? I don't understand how you can be so relaxed about our situation. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. I need some air, he muttered. I can't deal with this right now. The tension in our home was unbearable. Every conversation we had about responsibility or our future seemed to end in a heated argument, leaving behind nothing but a heavy silence. I was exhausted, physically from working extra hours, and emotionally from the constant strain of trying to hold everything together. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table sorting through bills and trying to make sense of our finances, I realized something had to change. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep carrying the weight of everything on my own. Aiden, I began, my voice firm but steady. We need to talk. This can't go on any longer. He barely looked up from his phone, his face showing no sign of concern. What now, Gloria? It's about your job situation, or rather, the lack of one, I said, frustration creeping into my tone. It's been months, Aiden. We're sinking here, and you don't seem to care. He let out a heavy sigh. Here we go again. Look, I'm trying, okay? Do you think I enjoy this? Do you think I like seeing you stressed all the time? Then do something about it, I said, my voice rising with a mix of anger and desperation. Find a job, any job. We need 2 incomes, Aiden. We agreed on this when we got married. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You think it's so easy, huh? Just snap my fingers and a job appears? You don't get it, Gloria. The market's tough. I need something that suits me. Something that suits you? I repeated, incredulous. We don't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect job, Aiden. We have bills, a mortgage, responsibilities. Aiden started pacing around the room, running his hands through his hair, clearly frustrated. I can't deal with this pressure, Gloria. It's constant with you. You're always on me about money, about work. I can't take it. I stood up, facing him head on. This isn't about nagging, Aiden. This is about our life, our future. If you can't understand that, then maybe this isn't going to work. Aiden stopped pacing and looked at me, his eyes cold. What are you saying? I took a deep breath, the weight of my words heavy in the air. I'm saying that if you don't find a job, if you don't start taking our situation seriously, then maybe we need to rethink this marriage. The words hung between us like a storm cloud, and for a moment, Aiden said nothing. His face was hard, but there was no apology, no recognition of the gravity of what I had said. Without a word, he grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I sank back into my chair, my hands trembling slightly. I hadn't wanted it to come to this. I had hoped we could work through our issues, but the endless cycle of arguments and indifference had worn me down. Days passed, and I heard nothing from Aiden. The silence in the house was both a relief and a worry. Part of me felt free from the tension, but another part of me feared that this could be the beginning of the end. Would he come back? Would we ever find a way through this? I didn't know anymore. Late one evening, as I sat alone in the quiet of our home, my phone rang, breaking through the stillness and jolting me out of my thoughts. I quickly answered, my heart already racing. Mrs. Smith? This is the hospital. Your husband, Aiden Smith, was brought in after an accident. He's stable, but he sustained some injuries. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and before the rest of the message even registered, my mind was spinning. I couldn't focus on the rest of what the nurse was saying. I was too consumed with worry and fear. I rushed to the hospital as quickly as I could, my thoughts a chaotic mix of fear, confusion, and 1,000 questions I didn't have answers for. The sterile, impersonal atmosphere of the hospital felt worlds away from the whirlwind of emotions I was trying to navigate. When I finally arrived and found Aiden's room, seeing him lying there with a bulky cast on his leg and a look of pain on his face struck me hard. This was a version of Aiden I'd never seen before, vulnerable in a way that stirred something deep inside me. As I sat beside his bed, I watched him for a moment, hoping the sight of me would give him some comfort. His eyes fluttered open slowly, and for a brief moment, he looked confused. But then recognition set in. "Gloria, you're here," he said, his voice weak and full of emotion, guilt and relief mixed together. I forced a smile, trying to keep the conversation light despite everything I was feeling. "Yeah, I'm here. How are you feeling?" He winced as he tried to adjust his position. "Like I've been run over," which, I guess, isn't far from the truth. I tried to hold back my own emotions. "The doctor said you're lucky. The injury could have been worse, but it's a severe fracture. You'll need time to heal." Aiden exhaled deeply, looking at me with a combination of sadness and regret. "Gloria, I'm sorry. I've been such a fool. And now this." His voice trailed off, and I could see the pain in his eyes, both physical and emotional. I sighed, a mix of frustration and sympathy filling me. "Aiden, we'll sort through all of that later. Right now, you need to focus on getting better." But he wasn't ready to drop the subject. His tone had a hint of urgency, like he had something important to say. "No, I need to say this. I've been self-centered, and I've put you through so much. This accident, it's made me see things differently." I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to hear him out, but another part of me was cautious. "I appreciate you saying that, Aiden, but it's going to take more than words to fix what's been broken between us." He nodded solemnly. "I know, and I want to make it right. I'll find a job as soon as I'm able. I'll help out more around the house, whatever it takes." Before I could respond, a nurse entered to check on Aiden's condition. After she left, we picked up where we had left off. "Aiden, it's not just about the job or the housework," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's about us. Our relationship. We've been drifting apart, and it's going to take real effort from both of us to bridge that gap." He reached out, taking my hand gently in his. "I know I've messed up, Gloria, but lying here, all I can think about is you. How much you mean to me, and how I've taken you for granted." His words hit me deeply. They were touching, but I couldn't shake the caution that had built up over the months. "I want to believe you, Aiden. I really do. But we've had so many false starts. I need to see that you're serious about making a change." Before he could respond, the nurse returned with a cheerful demeanor, completely at odds with the heavy mood in the room. "We're going to start some mild physical therapy soon. It will be a journey, but you're in good hands," she said, before leaving us alone again. After she was gone, Aiden looked at me with a new resolve in his eyes. "I know it's going to be a long road, but I want you with me, Gloria. If you're willing to give me that chance." Bringing Aiden home from the hospital marked the beginning of a new, challenging chapter in our lives. His broken leg meant he was confined to either the bed or the couch for the foreseeable future, and his dependence on me for even the simplest tasks was a stark change from the independent person he had once been. The first few days were a whirlwind of adjusting to this new routine. I had to juggle my work commitments with playing nurse to Aiden, all while trying to stay calm and focused. It was exhausting. One evening, after an especially long day at work, I walked through the door, ready to collapse from exhaustion. I came home one evening, exhausted from work, only to find Aiden staring at the TV with a frown on his face. "Aiden, how are you feeling? Do you need anything?" I asked, dropping my bag on the floor and kicking off my shoes. He turned his head to look at me, his expression sour. "Where have you been? I've been calling out for help to get to the bathroom, and you are nowhere to be found." A wave of guilt washed over me, mixed with frustration. "Aiden, I had to stay late at work. You know how demanding my job is. I can't just leave whenever I want." He scoffed, his voice dripping with resentment. "Well, maybe your job shouldn't be more important than your husband." As the days went on, Aiden's demands grew. He expected specific meals at specific times, his medication to be handed to him exactly when he needed it, and constant attention. If anything was off, he made sure to voice his displeasure. One Saturday, I spent hours preparing his favorite dish, hoping it would lift his spirits. When I finally set the plate down in front of him, he barely looked at it before looking up at me with disdain. "This is what you made. It's too salty. Can't you do anything right?" I felt my patience snap. "Aiden, I've been running around all day, trying to take care of you and keep up with everything else. A little appreciation wouldn't hurt." He sneered and pushed the plate away. "Appreciation? I'm stuck in this bed because of my leg, and all I ask for is a decent meal." My hands trembled with anger. "You know what, Aiden? I'm not your servant. I'm your wife, and I deserve some respect." His eyes flashed with anger, and he shot back. "Respect? You want respect? How about respecting my condition? I'm the one who's suffering here." I walked away to cool down, but the words stung deeply. I realized something was changing in Aiden. The sweet, apologetic person I had seen in the hospital seemed to have vanished. In his place was someone who seemed to take pleasure in belittling me at every turn. Then one day, I returned home from work earlier than usual. The house, usually quiet at this time of day, was filled with the unexpected sound of laughter coming from Aiden's room. My heart pounded, and a sense of dread filled me as I tiptoed closer. Peering through the slightly open door, I saw Aiden sitting up, animated and cheerful, chatting on the phone. "Oh yeah, I've settled in quite well here," he said with a laugh. "Gloria doesn't have a clue." I froze. My breath caught in my throat.
Who was he talking to? What was he talking about?
A cold shiver ran down my spine as his words replayed in my mind. I quickly backed away, my mind racing. Then, to cover my shock, I slammed the door to announce my presence and walked into his room with a composed expression. Aiden quickly changed his demeanor when he heard the door slam. He ended the call abruptly, feigning weakness. "Gloria, you're back," he said, his voice a little too sweet. "How are you feeling?" I asked, masking my turmoil with a concerned smile. "Just the same," he replied, avoiding my gaze. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I contacted a private detective I knew from a previous work case. "I need you to find out everything about my husband's activities," I told him over the phone. "And there's a woman he might be involved with." While the detective did his work, I kept up the appearance of being the dutiful wife. It was agonizing, pretending everything was normal when every instinct I had screamed that my world was falling apart. 3 weeks later, the detective got back to me. The news was worse than I had imagined. Aiden had been in an accident with his mistress. Her name was listed in the police reports. The detective gave me the name of the woman. Everything I had feared had come true. Aiden wasn't just failing to meet my expectations. He had been lying to me all along. And now, I was faced with the painful reality of betrayal. A quick search on social media confirmed my worst fears. Aiden's mistress had a profile full of pictures of them together, intimately close, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. But that wasn't all. The detective had uncovered something far more damaging: Aiden's gambling debts. The amount was staggering, enough to potentially drown us financially. I sat in the living room, staring at the evidence of Aiden's betrayal laid out before me. A mix of anger, disbelief, and heartache flooded my mind. How could I reveal the truth to him? How could I make him understand the full weight of what he'd done? For now, I kept these thoughts to myself, waiting for the right moment to turn the tables. As the morning light filtered through the curtains, I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. Taking a deep breath, I walked into Aiden's room, where he lay in his bed, still recovering from the broken leg. I had to stay calm and focused. This was going to be the performance of a lifetime. "Aiden, I need to talk to you about something important," I said, my voice calm but firm. He looked up at me, irritation flashing across his face. "What now, Gloria? Can't you see I'm in pain here?" I held my composure. "I've decided for your better care. You're being moved to a state medical facility tomorrow. They're better equipped to handle your rehabilitation." Aiden's face shifted from annoyance to panic.
"What? No.
You can't do that. I want to stay here with you. I didn't flinch. I'm sorry, Aiden, but this is for the best. I'll start packing your things. As I turned toward the door, I heard the frantic rustling of sheets behind me and Aiden's hurried voice calling someone on the phone. She's sending me to some facility. You have to help me. About an hour later, a car pulled up outside and Aiden's mistress barged into the house. She walked with determination and concern written all over her face, heading straight for Aiden's room with me trailing behind. I'm here to take him with me. He's not going to any facility, she declared, her voice full of ownership. I entered the room, my heart pounding, but my face remained calm. I'm glad you're here, I said flatly. This was all a setup to get you to show your hand. Aiden and his mistress exchanged confused glances, their faces slowly filling with fear. What are you talking about, Gloria? Aiden asked, his voice trembling. I held up the evidence, the photos collected by the detective of them together. This is the proof of your affair. I'll be seeking compensation for this betrayal. The mistress laughed, though there was a nervous edge to it. I can pay whatever you want. He's coming with me. I smiled thinly, confident in what I had to say next. You should know that he's neck-deep in gambling debts, and without a job, he can't afford his medical bills or insurance. Are you ready to handle all of that? Her face drained of color as the gravity of my words hit her. Aiden's eyes darted between us, a look of helplessness on his face. But I can't deal with all that, she stammered, her confidence cracking. Seems like he's your problem now, I said with cold finality, turning to leave the room. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. I filed for divorce, making sure I received a fair settlement to compensate for Aiden's betrayal and deceit. His mistress, now burdened with his financial and medical responsibilities, quickly found herself overwhelmed. Rumors began circulating about their strained relationship, filled with constant arguments and financial troubles. Aiden's downfall was a direct result of his actions, and now his mistress was trapped in the web of consequences he had spun. As for me, I found peace in my newfound freedom. The betrayal had hurt, and it had shaken me, but it also taught me a valuable lesson about trust and deception. Through all the pain, I discovered a strength within myself I never knew I had. I moved forward, determined to build a life of my own, one free from lies, betrayal, and the shadows of the past. I knew now that my happiness was in my own hands.